In music, one of the most common things people wonder is how majority of the most popular artists in the world typically make some of the most garbage albums you will ever hear. How is it even possible that a megastar who has all of the resources you could ever need to create a body of work that could truly be legendary end up so terrible? How does someone like DJ Khaled, who gets features from every A-lister from Jay-Z to Travis Scott, manage to always make the most lifeless albums you could ever hear? And how does one of the biggest stars on the planet like Drake consistently get away with releasing the most creatively bankrupt albums out there? Today, we are going to explore the real reasons why the overwhelming majority of popular artists make such genuinely bad albums, and stay around till the end to find out the answer because you are going to be shocked. Now, when we try to understand why so many of the most popular artists in the world make albums that are the equivalent of hot garbage, we need to be aware of what type of people make up the near entirety of the music world today. When you look at all of the artists in the industry, you can separate them into two archetypes. On one hand, you have the artists who are always pushing the medium forward. These are the names that are innovating what the type of music we listen to can sound like. They are pushing the boundaries forward, and while these artists tend to be some of the most renowned figures not just in music but in all of pop culture, majority of artists are doing something a lot less flattering than this. While only a fraction of artists have the courage, patience, and dedication to truly change the tides of what goes on within the music we consume, most artists would rather tread through the tracks of what other creatives have already established, and this is the first major problem: the death of originality. Now, because of the rapid commercialization of music along with the over-glorified idolization of its biggest stars, a lot of artists in the current day and age make music for much different reasons than ever before. Most artists are no longer making music with the same purpose and prowess as they once were, and instead, a lot of what's coming out is made for instant validation. More than ever, music today is more about creating an appearance than anything else, and this is reflected heavily with a lot of what's popular today. From riding out trends, sampling older songs in a matter where it borderlines on plagiarism, to dabbling albums with A-list features simply because a budget can, the way most albums are being superficially conceived is forcing them into the limelight but without any of the purity that can make them stand in it. This is why a lot of major artists have been seeing the lowest sales figures of their respective careers in recent years, because people are really getting sick and tired of the smoke and mirror tricks that they are putting up. When you listen to a new album and nothing feels even remotely interesting, it's impossible to invest your time into an experience that could end up being well over 20 songs long. It's deceiving to listeners to promise them new records yet only manage to try to recapture the magic of somebody else's work, or to simply distract them with features and nostalgia in hopes that just a few seconds of what you have done will go viral on TikTok. Speaking of going viral, this is another problem that is making popular music feel so devoid of any life, because everything is increasingly becoming more about spectacle and less about the art itself. Whether this means leveraging the likeness of an artist and to publicize matter of theirs to sell an album, or doing some jarring marketing that has people questioning what you worship, like we have seen with Doja Cat's latest album Scarlet. Where promotion was once used to bring eyes onto a new album, it is now becoming a way to trick fans into listening to just more of the same bland music. When you use such insane yet ultimately shallow methods to promote music, it makes listening to the album more like getting clickbaited than hearing an actual artistic experience. Now, right at the same time as the industry has pushed marketing music into a lucrative form of deception, they are making the actual music itself become more lifeless than it ever has. More than ever, record labels tend to refrain from taking risks on artists who are bringing something different to the table, so as a result of this, the artists that are getting supported by the industry decide that they should just reheat the same exact things that another artist has already shown worked. With labels investing in artists based on proven research, it only makes sense to these individuals to enter the music world trying to find room in somebody else's spotlight, but the problem with this is, the more artists that compete for the scraps of somebody else's success, the less opportunities there are for new things to emerge. Just to give this some actual context, if you watched Kanye's Genius documentary, you can see how Kanye literally went into different label executives' offices at Rockefeller Records, rapping to them legendary tracks like All Falls Down, and because Kanye's practical way of rapping was drastically different than the braggadocious standard the label dominated with, nobody even took him seriously. These labels are so blinded, so caught up in trying to create a formula for good art, that they almost let the creative genius of somebody like Kanye West go to waste. Even though this example is from about 20 years ago, it shows that the problem has always existed and that if anything, based on the music we are getting now, it's only gotten worse. While of course Ye eventually would get his shot with a lot of hard work and of course a little bit of luck, this documentary showed us firsthand just how blind and afraid labels are to not just take risks, but to even think just a little bit out of the box. Now as we grip with the fact of what has twisted so much of the music industry into a wasteland of meaningless project after meaningless project, all of these factors culminate together to give us albums that aren't just made by artists themselves, but instead are made as brand statements by larger committees. The purpose of an album was always for an artist to compile a set of tracks into one coherent artistic statement that represented what they were thinking and feeling at a said time, but now, releases from popular artists are really nothing more than brand updates to keep them relevant enough within the cultural zeitgeist. This is one of the many reasons why albums are filled to the brim with as many songs as possible these days, because in practice, this gives them the most chances to have that one magical hit, and even beyond this, most modern albums are structured in a way where the songs that are most likely to be a hit are in the first half, specifically within the first 6 songs of a record. So with releases from popular artists pretty much being the equivalent to going to the casino and throwing as much money as you possibly can, hoping that just one bet you place pays off, it's really no surprise why so many albums from popular artists feel so contrived, terrible, and lifeless. Now when we look at what has happened at the top of the music industry, we must understand that the game they are playing has taken multiple players to make work. For albums to do the bare minimum to get by, you don't just need labels who want to get the most out of the absolute least, but you also need artists who are just fine collecting their checks and putting in minimal effort. And as we have seen the modern music industry take shape, when we look at so many players within the mainstream spotlight, this is exactly what has been happening. It's hard to even call so many people in the industry today artists, as these figures navigate more like brand ambassadors, putting on a face to what's happening while everything else is meddled with behind the scenes. While it's quite tragic to see so many artists who have shown talent sell out on their creative journey and phone in what they are doing today, this problem all goes back to the purpose of why so many got into making music in the first place. A lot of the biggest players in music have lost sight of what actually matters at the end of the day. They are caught up with all the superficial aspects of stardom, and because there was never any other intention behind the music aside from getting to a certain point of status, they have nothing left to prove, and therefore they have nothing left to offer. I think Pharrell Williams says it best about what the difference is between artists creating for passion and those who are doing it for profit, so I'm gonna let him break it down for a second.
Why are you doing music? Is it just because you just want to look cool? Because that will burn out. When it becomes purpose oriented, it can be as cool as the flashy shit, but it will be much more meaningful.
And just from Tyler the Creator's reaction to these very words, you can see what separates the industry leaders from the industry followers. Now, while in today's industry, of course there are outliers who still create music that is beloved by the masses and is genuinely great, as the larger sum of popular music becomes more lifeless and lifeless, this will only continue for so long until people really get fed up. In a genre like hip-hop, where we have seen so many of these types of artists show such a staggering decline in sales already, while independent and underground acts continue to thrive, it's clear that there is going to be a big change coming, and possibly a beautiful one at that. Additionally, as more artists take control of their own labels and creative entities, we can see that the tides are turning and newer talent on the horizon may just be able to mark a new era forward for the future of popular music. So let me know your thoughts. Why do you think most popular albums these days that come out are so bad? Can't wait to hear what you have to say, and if you got something out of this video, be sure to leave a like and stick around and subscribe. It helps me out a ton and it is free to do. Thank you so much for watching. Your support means everything. Mr. F, fantastic hip hop. Catch you in the next video.